I've got to start this off and give a absolutely huge thank you to Harry over at his channel, Halum. And Harry's actually a really great friend as well. Definitely go subscribe to his channel. Such an awesome guy, awesome content, and definitely a YouTuber on the rise. However, with PayPal request, he requested for me to check out a movie called Leaving Las Vegas. Now, this is directed by Mike Figgis, if I've got that right. And it was released in 1995 of a runtime of 111 minutes. I knew nothing about this going into it, so by the end of it, what can I say about this movie? Well, I've definitely got some thoughts. Hello everyone, what's going on? Welcome to the channel and thank you so much for taking your own time out to check out this review. Now we are going to go into some form of spoilers here towards maybe the end of the video, so just a heads up if you want to avoid that. Yeah, you could definitely come back and check out that part as well. But yeah, PayPal request, if you don't know if you're new or you're returning, link down below in the description box, and that is kind of a link with my Patreon, so big thank you to all my patrons who help to support the channel. But yeah, you can request for me to watch a movie in terms of a short or a long form review. The link is down below. Leaving Las Vegas. It stars Nicolas Cage, Elisabeth Shue, and the late great Julian Sands. So going into this one, as I mentioned, I knew absolutely nothing about it. However, when I read the plot synopsis, I was like, okay, well, you know, what direction are they going to take this? Because it focuses on a character called Ben Sanderson, as he is a screenwriter, but because he suffers from alcoholism, he loses everything. So he decides to pack up, he decides to move to Las Vegas with kind of his last pay slip from his job. There, he meets a prostitute called Sarah and decides to move in with her. So I was definitely curious as to where this movie was going to go, because it's definitely got a lot of different subject matter here and here, and I'll definitely say that this could really be regarded as a trigger warning, especially if you know someone who does suffer from alcoholism or has done in the past or currently, or maybe that is something that's happening in maybe your family or friends. Whatever the case should be there. And also does touch on the theme of suicide, so again, another really strong message here, along with the prostitution element as well. So this is definitely not a movie to be taken lightly. I'm not saying that you would, but just kind of a forewarning going into it. So after I finished watching the movie, and after I finished kind of divulging the kind of into the experience of the 111 minutes that was played out, and kind of, you know, take a little bit of time to think about it, kind of really process my thoughts and be like, right, let's up the camera, let's get into this. I can say that there's elements here I really appreciate about the filmmaking. There's some elements I think that work really well, some strong messaging throughout, but there's certain choices done here that ultimately let it down for me as an overall experience. Now, before we go into those kind of things that let me down, we've got to dip dive straight away into the positives. And right away, what is really cool is when I read some trivia about this after checking out the movie after it finished, is the fact that Nicolas Cage spent time to go on kind of binge sessions and be drunk and practice his kind of drunken speech and slurring in front of a mirror to get that kind of where he would say the dialogue in this right. And I really appreciate that about the craft and how he was able to kind of transpire and translate that onto the screen, because he gives a really solid performance as Ben Sanderson. Especially this is definitely more of a serious route, which I heard previously he did a movie called Trapped in Paradise. I've not seen it, but he wanted to definitely go into a serious role, and this is absolutely that role. But not just him who gives a great performance here, also Elisabeth Shue as Sarah also does give a great performance, and she actually went onto the streets and talked to, you know, real life prostitutes to kind of gain about that experience and have that going into her role. So I appreciate the craft of both actors and kind of what methods they took to get into these roles that they were given in this hard-hitting script, because it is actually based on a novel by John O'Brien. And also I just want to say a rest in peace to John O'Brien, who wrote the novel, and of course my thoughts are with him and his family, because shortly after he signed the rights over to make this into a movie, he did actually commits suicide 2 weeks later, I think I read, which is incredibly sad. And it's such a shame that after getting your novel made and getting it going to be made into a movie, that's what that person was going through. So you could definitely tell that this movie was kind of made with a passion project with that in mind, and trying to honour, of course, the author of the novel, but of course make its own take into transpiring what we're going to see on the screen. So the performances, as I mentioned firstly, is definitely really well done, especially Nick Cage in the 90s here. I think he just gives it his all in this, as he is, of course, an alcoholic. And what's really interesting is that you actually never see him eat any food. Throughout the 111 minutes, he is just constantly drinking. Every single scene, every single minute, and every chance that he gets, it is a fresh bottle of whiskey, vodka, a mix of drinks, whatever he can get his hands on, he lays into the drink. And I think the only one time I actually see him eat anything is like an ice cube. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't eat anything, at least not that I've seen. And then, of course, we've got Elisabeth Shue. So we've got two different kind of ends of the spectrum, and I think where this is really important, where you can kind of relate into the messaging, is where Nicolas Cage, yeah, maybe okay, you maybe don't drink alcohol, maybe you're not an alcoholic, but he lost his job, and I'm sure at some point in our lives we've maybe had a job that we've lost, or we've moved on to a job, or maybe we've suffered with money, or waiting for like the next payday. I'm sure we've gone through something like that, which of course he does. And then he also loses his loved one, his wife, because his wife does dump him in the novel because of his drinking. So yeah, again, the love of his life left him. And I'm sure we've all maybe had a relationship at some point in our life where we've been really invested in that, and then when the breakup happens, it kind of leaves you, and definitely leaves a lasting impact, or at least an impact for a set amount of time. So again, another strong vocal point and message that we have here that I think is just, again, really important, and something that the audience can take away, even if this movie was made in 1995. All these years later, first time watch in 2023, I could definitely relate with a couple of those themes. Cinematography, I will also say, is done nicely. It's grainy. It is of the 90s, so you're going to have that aspect of the filmmaking there. But I appreciated that, because visiting Vegas myself in 2019, I could definitely relate with seeing some of the places that are shown here, and I was like, yeah, okay, I've seen that, or I've maybe been near there, and it was kind of just cool to have that, on-set location, and it just kind of adds, of course, to the nature and the feel and the vibe that this movie's going for, of course, set in Vegas. So another aspect. And I will also say that I like the music, but don't hold me that, because there's definitely more to it. In terms of just the music in general, I like the music that is here, but if I'm dip diving right into the negatives, about the music, I liked it, but it absolutely does not fit this at all. It's kind of like jazz, it's kind of really loud points at times, the loudness just kind of boils itself into the scene, sometimes more louder than the actual scene that we get. There's plenty of times where the music, it just feels completely out of place. And also, I think that kind of goes with the tone of this movie as well, because it wants to be really serious and about the subject matter of, Ben Sanderson, an alcoholic, Sarah, who is a prostitute. They end up kind of falling for each other, and she really wants to care for him. But he says, look, you are not going to stop me from drinking myself to death. And that's a very serious tone. But then the music is kind of also wanting to try to shift that, or is trying to be kind of maybe cool for the time. And it just really doesn't fit. It feels out of place. It feels like out of character. And then the tone of the movie at times, I felt, right, this should have really just either stuck itself of being a really serious movie and just keep into that really, really dark tone. Yes, it may be a dark tone many people won't want to watch over and over again, but to kind of hit the point home that it should have been going for. But then I feel like the music and some choices made throughout kind of undermine where this movie's strongest point lies kind of undermines it to the point where it may be an impactful scene that we should be having, you don't get the true impact. And one of those other decisions that's made here is the relationship with Ben and Sarah. Again, Nicolas Cage and Elisabeth Shue are probably doing the best that they're given, the best that they physically can. But with what we actually get, there is certain scenes where you do have kind of like a little bit of a breakthrough moment to a degree, and you really root for both characters. You're happy. You're like, wow, okay, two different kind of backgrounds and life experiences that these had, they're coming together finally, and wow, this is going to be great. But then it decides, no, let's just go back to kind of square one again. And it's continuously kind of like, there's a bit of progress and then it's back to square one, and it was just a little bit frustrating by the end of it. And this is just one of those movies that I feel like is an absolute shame, because underlying fantastic story here, simple but a fantastic story, but the direction and some of the choices made, especially as this is a screenplay also by Mike Figgis, I think truly hinders this movie. So my overall score for Leaving Las Vegas is a 2.5 out of 5 stars. You've heard my opinion, guys. What about your opinion? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Do you think that I've got this completely wrong? Or do you think I've actually got this one right? Well, let me know down below in the comment section so we can continue the discussion down there. If you've enjoyed this review, definitely give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel by clicking the red button down below. And until the next time that I see you guys, I'll be seeing you later.